Well, I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight, and if you didn't get a snack on the way in, there is some Prosecco and biscotti on the back table to kind of get you in the mood for Italy. So to start out, I'd like for everyone to picture themselves here. You can see this. You're in a 2,000-year-old piazza. It's a beautiful fall September day. You have a drink and a snack. The pigeons are cooing and probably trying to eat your snack. And somewhere in the background, some street musicians are playing. It's wonderful, isn't it? And that is exactly what Italy would have been like if we had taken a nanny with us to watch our 3-year-old and 16-month-old daughters. Instead, most of our let's take in the beauty and grandeur of this moment times went something like this. On our second night in the Eternal City, we headed to the Spanish Steps, a gathering place for both Romans and tourists for nearly 300 years. We had decided on an evening picnic because dinner the night before had been less than relaxing. Charlotte, usually a great eater and agreeable mealtime companion, had been jet-lagged and restless, so Nick and I had taken turns walking her up and down the cobblestones while the other one ate and tried to coerce Riley, who has always preferred to live on air instead of food, to do the same. 24 hours later, we were only slightly better rested, so skipping a second seated dinner circus seemed like an excellent idea. We bought some groceries and looked for a spot on the time-worn marble steps, intending to eat during the evening passeggiata, a charming Italian ritual that draws everyone into the streets in the early evening to stroll and see and be seen. After finding a seat at the base of the steps where we could easily park the stroller and do some people watching, I unpacked our food. I think I was trying to relive Italy as it had been when I was young and single, when picnics had been a cheap and seemingly sophisticated way to enjoy a meal. Judging by the food I had picked out, I must have temporarily forgotten that I now also had children to feed. I had thought Riley would at least eat the yogurt and bread, not realizing that she would view the pane rustica as one giant loaf of offensive crust. And then, for some inexplicable reason, she gave the yogurt a yogurt schmogurt look and turned up her nose. Lucky for us, although a blight on Rome's Central Historic District, McDonald's has its flagship outpost just around the corner from Piazza di Spagna. Proving once again that becoming a parent means never say never, I broke one of my basic traveling rules: never eat American fast food abroad. I justified it by telling myself that empty bellies on top of jet lag would have erased all hope of the kids sleeping through the night. Still, I had to fight the urge to explain to the disinterested cash register operator that I was not planning to dine regularly at McDonald's while in her fine country, but I managed to suck up my pride and simply smile as I ordered my McNugget meal. Ironically, the kids really didn't know what McDonald's was at the time, and I'm not trying to imply that they lived on grass-fed beef and kale. They were quite familiar with chicken nuggets and French fries. I just didn't take them to McDonald's because I didn't particularly like to eat there. They may have had a Happy Meal or two before the trip. I'm pretty sure Nick occasionally used the kids as an excuse to get himself a quarter pounder, but not enough to have imprinted on the Golden Arches. That came a few months later. Once Riley put the concept of a dinner that comes with a toy together with the smiling M, she started asking regularly to go to the banana store, look at the logo sometime and tell me it wouldn't look like a big banana to a 3-year-old, or the store. Charlotte, who had gotten the second child's typical early introduction to vices, just yelled, "Mi donna! Mi donna!" whenever we drove past an outpost. So as Nick and I enjoyed bread, cheese, and prosciutto, the girls happily dug into their over-processed dinner of suspicious chicken parts and deep-fried potatoes. Once their bellies were full, they were in awe of the piazza. Not so much the beautiful Baroque architecture surrounding the square, but the incredible level of city nightlife going on around us. Since there weren't many pigeons to chase after dark, Charlotte turned to her second Italian obsession: fountains. She set her single-track toddler mind on climbing into the beautiful water-filled sculpture at the base of the Spanish Steps. where Nick and I were admiring the Fontana della Barcaccia, a 17th century Bernini sculpture and aquifer-fed fountain, Charlotte saw nothing more than an easily accessible swimming pool. But I had to admit it wasn't as bad of an idea as her other water-related compulsion, drinking out of the bathtub. Some other tourists, unconcerned with appearances, were already happily cooling their feet in the shallow end of the boat-shaped fountain. But I knew that taking one step down that road would end with 2 kids soaked from head to foot. So as Nick and I scanned Piazza di Spagna for some way to redirect the girls from attempting gleeful, fully clothed cannonballs, the piazza's most persistent distractions presented themselves. Salesmen. They go by many names. You like, you buy? Pretty lady, pretty flower? Yes, yes, hello, you buy. In the end, I simply thought of them as the crap men. Like the Batman theme song. No, the crap men! For every person enjoying the piazza, there were 2 people trying to sell them something they neither needed nor wanted. Entwined lovers got hit up repeatedly to buy roses for their sweeties. I didn't see a flower vendor so much as glance our way. What, towing a 3-year-old and 16-month-old doesn't scream romantic Roman holiday? Instead of bouquets, we apparently looked like we needed a wide variety of cheap plastic toys. The guys selling glow necklaces and little guns that sent spinning discs whistling into the air were all over us. And in the hierarchy of fleeting toddler obsessions, not many things trump cheap neon toys. The girls quickly forgot about swimming in the fountains. They thought they had died and gone to a carnival midway. They wanted all of it. Nick tried to teach Riley that she should just say no grazie when the crap men descended. She seemed to be listening. Then a salesman came by with a light-up bubble machine. Riley promptly started waving at him and shouting, "Yes, grazie!" Even later in the trip, she would sit at our outdoor dinner tables and make eye contact with every vendor who went by, waving her hand vaguely in a no thank you, or do I mean hello, come over here way, while murmuring, no grazie, very seriously and not at all convincingly under her breath. So in a nutshell, that was Italy with kids. It was highs and it was lows. It was an amazing backdrop. It was fighting the children about eating dinner. It was sitting in a piazza and enjoying the sunshine, then chasing Charlotte across the piazza so she didn't get run over by a Vespa while she was chasing pigeons. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. And that's not to say that we didn't have amazing memories. We did have pure vacation moments that we'll remember forever. One that comes to mind was being in Piazza San Pietro outside St. Peter's Cathedral. It's this enormous cobblestone piazza ringed with columns, and it was sunset and the sun was glowing pink on the cathedral while the girls were laughing and racing across the square chasing pigeons. And I'll remember that moment forever. But there was also the flip side. When I was thinking about the tagline for the posters for this event, I came up with, because traveling with kids doesn't always feel like a vacation. When grown-ups travel, you kind of have this understanding that you're going to have a good time. You're going to set aside your regular life. You're not going to fight about who left their socks on the bedroom floor or insist on driving a mile out of your way to save $1 on milk. You're going to enjoy each other. You're going to not pick fights, and you're just going to enjoy this beautiful place you've chose to visit. Little kids don't care if you're on vacation. They are not going to let you sleep in. They're not going to be nicer to each other or interested in unique food. And sometimes it seems like they're making life more difficult for you just for fun. Riley was one of those 3-year-olds who just loved to do everything the hard way. If I asked her to go upstairs, she would insist on wriggling backwards up the steps on her hands and feet like a confused inchworm. Technically, she did what was requested, but she always had to find her own way to get there. Even while we were on vacation, Riley stuck with her "why do it the easy way" worldview. We had decided that eating good food was one of the cultural experiences we could actually count on for this trip. Unlike touring the Vatican Museum, standing in hushed awe inside towering cathedrals, or any of the other thousands of tourist activities that required quiet voices, physical self-control, or an attention span. Since the temperatures hovered in the low 90s the whole time, our favorite culinary treat was gelato. We ate it a lot, whenever we felt like it. And Riley happily indulged along with the rest of the family, until she realized one day that she was making our lives entirely too easy. It wasn't that she didn't like gelato. Frankly, I can't imagine anyone, even the pickiest of preschoolers, not liking gelato. Her favorite flavor was cassata, which, from what I could tell, was vanilla with chunks of brightly colored candied fruit in it. I would say it tasted, or Riley thought it tasted like gummy bears. I would say the flavor was more like fruitcake. But as I said, normal was boring in Riley's world, and even cassata ice cream quickly became dangerously mundane. The next time I suggested going out for gelato, she said, "Mommy, I want a popsicle." Since this was her vacation too, I decided to indulge her whim instead of engaging in an unwinnable debate about gelato's vast superiority to flavored ice on a stick. Off we went hunting popsicles. There was just one catch. I didn't know the Italian word for popsicle. My travel dictionary app claimed to provide all the content you need, but apparently popsicle was not one of the 45,000 words you should ever find yourself searching for while in Italy. They have gelato. Who in their right minds would want a popsicle? After a little fruitless wandering, I popped my head into a clothing store where two friendly-looking guys didn't seem too busy. My broken Italian charades went something like this, and this all went on in Italian, but it's in English for clarity. "Good day, sirs. I am searching a thing for my daughter. I do not know the word. It is very, very cold," because I couldn't think of the word for frozen, "and is like this." I mimicked licking something on a stick, seriously hoping I was not inadvertently making an obscene gesture. "Ice cream? No, it is not the ice cream, but it is like the ice cream. Very, very cold. Doesn't she like ice cream?" "Yes, she likes the ice creams, but she is a small child, and now she wants the other thing. We don't eat much of that." "There was a store at the train station?" "Yes, at the train station, but it's hard to find here in town." "Is there a supermarket near here?" "Yes, you can try that." The supermarket, which in its entirety had the square footage of one aisle of an American Safeway, had some popsicles. But before I could do my self-congratulatory supermom dance and remind Riley how awesome I was for magically fulfilling her wishes, she changed her mind again, casting aside the box of brightly colored giaccoli, that's the word I was looking for, in favor of a pink tub of Hello Kitty branded ice cream bites coated in pink candy shells. Naturally. So many of our memories from this trip involved meals and interacting with strangers. As you can probably tell, Riley has a strong and mostly charming personality. She just loves attention. In fact, I think she'd rather have attention than food. And our girls are less than 2 years apart, and I've always kind of worried about Charlotte being relegated to Riley's shadow. So this next passage shows me that maybe I don't have to worry so much about that. It seemed like it would be tough to have an only slightly older sister who sucked up all the attention in a room before anyone had a chance to even look at Charlotte. I only have a brother, so the sister dynamic is a mystery and a worry because I have no personal experience to draw on. It was hard not to project their personalities 10 years into the future when the scrutinizing they now did about who got more chocolate chips on their oatmeal would become a lot more personal, comparing their height, their thighs, who got asked to homecoming first, the works. But if Charlotte ends up in tears with feelings of Marcia, 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 I can always tell her this story. We had followed an internet recommendation to Latteria di Vicolo del Gallo, encouraged by the glowing description of it as an authentic Roman coffee shop. We walked into a small fluorescent-lit storefront with a coffee bar and handful of tables separating the dining area from a tiny grocery store in the back. It wasn't at all picturesque, but that made it seem even more genuine. I was sure we'd found a hidden gem. The adorable old woman behind the counter cooed over the girls in Italian as I ordered. I crossed my fingers and requested 2 cappuccini con doppio espresso. This was another problem we had. We like to drink double shot lattes because we have kids and we need more caffeine all the time. But apparently in Italy, people don't drink a double shot anything. So I'd try one set of words and we'd get a tiny coffee cup with some milk on it. And then they'd say, oh no, order it like this, and I'd go to the next place and we'd get a giant cup with like half a shot of caffeine in it. And so it was always a total guess whether we were going to get what we wanted or not. But this time, she seemed to know exactly what I meant, asking if I wanted piccoli or grandi, small cups or big ones. So I went for grandi, enjoying the special treat of American-sized coffee cups. She said I should call it un cappuccino, which is a little language joke meaning a really big cappuccino. And we both laughed, ha ha ha. We picked out some Nutella-filled croissants and sat down. Out came 2 big soup bowl-sized cups, topped with foamy milk and a sprinkling of cocoa powder. I was almost giddy. We finally found it. A hole-in-the-wall place with great local color, a charming barista, and big mugs of toilet water. Oh. Nick and I nearly did spit takes. It was the most unbelievably awful coffee I have ever tasted, and I've had espresso from lonely drive-thru stands in the middle of nowhere, Montana. The coffee tasted so bad, we wondered if the review we read, old-fashioned place seemingly untouched since the 60s, was referring to the milk. Because I'm a great mom, I decided we should use Riley as a guinea pig to find out if the milk really was bad. So I offered her the special treat of a hot chocolate. Hers tasted fine. It was just really, really bad coffee. On top of being terrible, breakfast was surprisingly expensive, and the combination of the two was quickly transforming the place from a charming local spot to a glorified 7-Eleven with bad lighting and rickety tables. But in Italy, nothing is irredeemable. As we sat there, not drinking coffee, an old man in a worn blue fedora came through the door. His arms were covered in small collars, each with a miniature cowbell attached to it. According to the couple at the next table, at least from what I understood, the man was selling sheep collars. Or maybe goat collars. The bells all rang with slightly different tones, so a shepherd could differentiate between his animals from a distance. My question, which I wasn't able to effectively communicate, was why a traveling salesman was hawking sheep herding supplies in a coffee shop in the middle of Rome. Whatever the reason, it was delightful. The elderly couple who explained the salesman's wares had also been oohing and aahing over the girls all during breakfast. Finally, the husband pointed to Riley and said, "Lei è bella," she's pretty. I was about to smile and politely say grazie, feeling a little sad that Riley was once again getting all the attention. Before I could respond, he completed his thought, soothing my worries that Charlotte will forever be relegated to Riley's shadow. Pointing to Charlotte, he said, "Ma lei è bellissima," but she's beautiful. And how the Italians interacted with kids really made this vacation something special. You know, when you go as an adult, you kind of do your thing, you talk to the people you're with, you go to the museums, you go to the tourist spots, maybe you talk to some other tourists, but you don't really get to interact with the locals other than maybe a waiter here or there. The Italians love children. It's one of the reasons that we picked Italy as a place to go. And they just adored our kids, especially because our girls are very blonde, they really stood out, and they were also very attention-seeking, so they'd make friends wherever we went. And so we'd always get a chance to kind of peek behind the curtain of Italian life and see, just kind of get a taste for what the real culture really was for the people who live there. And I do speak some Italian. I took it in college. By the time we went, it was rusty but passable, so before we were ready to go, I thought, you know, we should teach Riley some Italian. You know, this will be great. She likes to make friends. I'm sure it'll be easy. And it was not easy. I figured that if locals were nicer to 30-something adults who use per favore and grazie, our trip would be smooth sailing when our little blondie could ask for una pizza con formaggio with big blue eyes and a winning smile. When I first brought up the idea of learning Italian words, I quickly discovered that I actually had to start by explaining the concept of another language. What do you mean another word for water? It's called water, Mom. Maybe if we had been raising our kids somewhere cosmopolitan, the concept of languages would have seemed more natural. So I decided to explain things on her level using Dora the Explorer as my academic reference. You know how Dora says amarillo when she means yellow and vámonos to say let's go? That's because she's speaking a language called Spanish. We're going to a country where they speak a language a little bit like Spanish. It's called Italian. She still didn't seem totally convinced, so we started with a topic sure to hold her attention. Hot chocolate. Okay, here we go. Una, cioccolata. Riley just looked at me. I tried again. Una, dos, tres. I tried not to laugh out loud. That's good Spanish counting, Riley, but let's try to say hot chocolate. Una, dos, tres. Riley, are you trying? Mommy, that's how Dora says it. That's true. Dora is counting 1, 2, 3 in Spanish, but we're trying to speak Italian. By the look on her face, I clearly hadn't made myself understood with the whole language explanation. Riley, Dora does say una, dos, tres, but does anyone give her hot chocolate when she says that? There is a time and a place for a good sugary bride. So let's try. Una cioccolata, una cioccolata calda, una cioccolata calda, una cioccolata cada. Awesome, here you go. By the time we boarded the plane, we'd gone beyond hot chocolate, please. Ciao, buongiorno, mi chiamo Riley, come ti chiami? What's your name? My name is Riley. Si and grazie were all in her repertoire. Oh, and una pizza senza funghi, 1 pizza hold the mushrooms. I was sure Riley was going to rock this language, and I was wrong. After several days in Italy, Riley still seemed unaware that no one understood what she was saying. At playgrounds, she would yell, hi, 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 at the other kids, who totally ignored her. After some prompting from us, you have to speak Italian. They don't speak English. She would try an exploratory ciao. My parents are usually idiots, but nothing else seems to be working. If anyone responded, though, she'd go right back to rattling on in English. Then our little socialite's hopes would be crushed when the target of her enthusiastic friendliness would turn his back and walk away, not wanting to play on the teeter-totter with the crazy girl speaking gibberish. She was headed down the same road at a playground in Spoleto while trying to befriend the little girl. Predictably, she got no response to, hi, do you want to play? My name's Riley. What's your name? Do you want to swing with me? Finally, though, the light bulb came on. Riley paused for a moment, then shouted out, Mi chiamo Riley! And lo and behold, a friend. After Riley's transformation into Mi chiamo Riley, she walked up to a little boy in the piazza one evening and tried out her new Insta-friend vocab. Ciao, ciao, mi chiamo Riley. Being a 2.5-year-old boy, he wasn't going to chat no matter what language she was speaking. Undeterred, she turned to his dad. Guess what? I have a baby in my tummy. Oh boy, here we go again. Childhood pregnancy. Riley's favorite topic and a surefire conversation stopper. The baby in my tummy was her version of an imaginary friend. Some kids have a unicorn or an alter ego named Daisy. Riley had a pregnancy, and not an easy one. That unborn child was already a handful. Mommy, the baby in my tummy is not listening to me, she informed me. I have to take it back to the grocery store and get one that listens. Wait, is that an option? Mommy, the baby in my tummy is going to come out, I was told. Charlotte can pat it, but she can't hold it because she might drop it. Sounds like good parenting advice to me. Charlotte is many wonderful things, but trustworthy is not one of them. For strangers who spoke English, the announcement of the baby in my tummy was received about as well as if she'd been running around yelling, my mommy has something called herpes. She says it itches. Unless they were in the pregnancy or baby phase of life themselves, people generally froze up and averted eye contact. Those who could roll with the punches usually asked what the baby's name was. And that was when it became clear that the baby in my tummy was about Riley's need for attention, not her underlying maternal instincts. Its name is nothing, or it's called not anything, were the 2 standard responses. But that day in Spoleto, we were spared another round of the awkwardness of the baby in my tummy when the language barrier worked in our favor for a change. The dad looked down at her with a big blank smile.